here today. So nice meeting all of you. So he's been talking about a lot of concepts, and today we talk about leadership, and we look at everything about leadership. Now, leadership happens to be. Thank you. Uh, Now, leadership happens to be the most researched subject in management. So, if you look at books have been written and papers have been submitted on leadership, it still happens. It so happens that we still haven't. Hello, Arvind. Good morning. Class ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಬೇಕಾಯ್ತಾ? Yeah, okay. Yeah, so we were talking about leadership. Why is this? Just give me a minute. Okay. Now we were talking about leadership. We were talking about what happened in. It became the most researched subject. So what happened is World War II ended, and the turning point for most management concepts was the World War II, because a lot of them came back, went to college, and a lot of lessons that they had learned in the war was applied to the corporate world. So leadership, the way we see it, uh, formal structured leadership happened after World War II. So it is no coincidence that some of the generals went on to lead. Have you heard of a gentleman called Eisenhower? Eisenhower was a general who became the president of the United States. So a lot of them took up very senior positions. They America has had a history of military people actually getting elected. So all that is about leadership. Now we're going to talk about corporate leadership, whereas the concepts of leadership remain the same. In fact, a lot of leadership studies have happened beyond the corporate world. It has happened in a lot of other things, non-profit organizations, happened in schools. They have looked at principles of schools and looked at the leadership styles of principals of schools. Do you remember your principal? Do you think your principal was a good leader? Somewhere, somewhere not. But that is the first experience you have of leadership and authority. And yeah, some of them were good, some of them were effective, and some of them were not. So we will look at what this means, what are leaders, who are your favorite leaders, and so on. Now, what is leadership? Okay, forget the formal thing. What do you think is leadership? Okay.
People who have followers.
So that's an interesting thing. So you're saying people who lead from the front, and the
Yes.
other person says that you can lead from the front. If there's nobody following you, then you're not a leader. So now in a corporate world, when we are looking at business, leadership is also about achieving corporate goals. Right? I'm going to lead you for what? There is a corporate goal. So if you're looking at any leader, you're looking at any corporate leader, you will find that they've been able to influence people. They've been able to persuade people to accept a vision. Okay, so any of you work for Infosys or have worked for Infosys? Okay, okay. You work or you're working? Okay. Now, you know, one thing about Infosys is that they created an organization with absolute organization integrity when it was unknown in Indian circumstances. They were the first company to do it. It was a vision of a very few people in Infosys, led by Mr. Narayan Murthy. And so they said that how do we convince people that integrity is the best way for Indian corporate world? They've been able to do it. So every leader comes up with yeah. Okay. Somebody online, can you please mute or let me go ahead and mute all of you? I'm signed out.
We are able to hear you, sir.
You're not able to hear me?
We are able to hear you, sir.
You're okay. But I'm just muting you all because there seems to be some. Okay, this should help. Now, uh, so we were talking about leadership, and what happened is that. So let me ask you, what happens in your teams? Anybody lead teams here? Manage team? Okay, so some of you do. Others are team members. But what happens if there is no leader to your team? Yeah, but then I say no leader. All of you together, no leader. Then what will happen? No, but finally, so that would happen for 1 week, 2 weeks, but then suddenly people get nervous about that. And then what do? Somebody becomes a leader. The leadership emerges from the group. So after somebody gets very frustrated with that, that person starts showing leadership and that person takes a lead. So in any team, there would most probably be a leader. You could have a leader appointed by the company, or there could be a leader that the team agrees is a leader, and the team then says, okay, we will follow whatever you have to say and we will buy into your thing. So lots of times you've had leaders who, just because they came up with a philosophy, any political leader came up with a philosophy, and you were free to accept it or not accept it. So the strength of the leadership has always been moral, where there was nothing that forced you to join a thing. If you liked it, you joined it, and if you liked it, you accepted that leadership or you didn't. In a corporate world, what happens is some of the leadership is sanctioned, which means that somebody gave you the authority to become a leader. And you say, okay, you're responsible for the work of these people, and you have to get the work done in these people. So uh, when you are a leader in a corporate sense, there is some amount of authority that has already been given to you. Whereas if you're looking at any other situation, that leadership has to be earned. So in a structured thing, whether it's the army or whether it's a corporate world, somebody says, okay, you're the leader. We think you're good enough to be a leader, and therefore that person becomes a leader. But in other things, if for example you're talking about elections to the legislator, it is always that you have to earn that leadership position. You have to go and convince people to do that. And, you know, it brings different problems. Okay. Yeah, yeah, come. Okay, now what you do now is, before we get into what are leadership theories, let's look at what you think is a good leader. Now you can pick any leader that you want, but you also need to write one reason why you think this person is a good leader. So any leader you want. No, we'll come to all your leaders. Okay, so just think about any good leader and why you think this person is a good leader. Yeah, so we'll start with you. You were talking about Mahatma Gandhi. So why do you think he's a good leader? Okay, so he followed truth. Yeah, okay. You're still thinking okay. Okay, still thinking okay. Anybody else who want to talk about their favorite leader? I thought you would be very excited to talk about them. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Huh? Okay. 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 Yeah. Please go ahead. Nobody. No other leaders we've had.
Sir, I want to speak about Narendra Modi. I know it is election time, but still, I feel he is a great leader because what I have seen with the moment, how he has developed India. We have seen some of them, other countries, they don't even bothering. Now the countries start respecting India, is what I have heard in papers and also seen in some of the videos. That makes me feel proud and also feel like he's a great leader, which and his principles like doing yoga every day and being there everywhere wherever it is required. I feel following him, and that's why I feel he's a great leader.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. I didn't get your name.
Archana.
Okay, Archana. Thank you. Okay, so in this class, what is unique about all your choices of leaders that we've heard so far? A lot of you have not spoken, so I don't know your choice of leader. What is a common thread in all the examples that we've heard so far? Huh? Okay. Okay. What else? No women. Strange. Anybody from Accenture? Okay, so Rekha Menon is stepping down. Big news. Great leader. Great leader. So I would have hoped that we also get women leaders. You've seen a lot of very, very good women leaders. So leadership is not only about men. What used to happen in the past is um, we borrowed leadership from the armed forces. So it was all about strength. It was about push. A lot of leaders continue to be men. I'm not denying it, but we are seeing a lot of women leaders. And today's news is that Rekha Menon, also president of NASSCOM, is stepping down after a stellar career in Accenture. She's retiring, and a stellar career she built. One of the people who helped build that organization. So I met her a couple of times. Been quite impressed with the way it is. So we've had some good women leaders too. So the reason I bring it is that it is not only about men. Uh, Leadership could be of women too, and in very, very good and a far-reaching in a far-reaching judgment, uh, the Supreme Court has opened up the defense forces for women. So you will see in the years to come in our lifetime, you will actually see chief of army staff who's a lady. We've already seen them, leading the Republic Day parade and Rafales and things like that. But you're also going to do that. So, but it's strange that none of the women talked about that. But that's okay. So we talk about the first thing. The first theory that came up is that if I know a few traits that a leader has, then I can decide on who has those traits, and that person will become a leader. So if I say that, so what happened is that they asked questions the way I did, saying that who's your favorite leader, and there was a list made of all the points that people said. But unfortunately, the list was so wide and contradictory that it could never be used practically. So because you know what you have good leader, one thing is that good leaders have to be good communicators. Gandhiji actually was quite a poor communicator. He had a lot of redeeming qualities, I agree. My Experiments with Truth is a boring book. His speeches were not very good, but he was a great leader. And you have somebody like Hitler who was an amazing communicator, communicated wrong ideas, uh, but was also successful. So which one should I take? Which model should I take? Should I take people who are good communicators, or should I take bad communicators? Yeah, so the point is it becomes a personal choice. So similarly, you have you had people who were very tall, like Eisenhower was a very tall gentleman, and you had Hitler who was very short. They were both very successful in their own way. Which one do you take? So No, but whatever, the fact is, see, you raise an interesting point whether leaders are born. Okay, now the fact is that yes, some people find leadership easier than others. Some people are more natural when it comes to leadership, like anything else. Some people find it easier to speak than others. Similarly, some people find it easier to lead. Some people find it easy to network and make friends. So all these are there. But the point was that can we come up with one list, and that list could never be agreed on. So everybody came up with their own list, and there were so many lists that people said, let's drop this idea together. But what happens is each company has a few traits that they say is um, an indication of whether the leader will be successful in our environment. That would happen. But the trait theory of leadership is largely discredited because nobody could agree on one big, even if you're talking of 10, 15, even that they couldn't agree on. Okay, so you have people who are very, very so. How many of you from technology, IT technology? Okay, so some of you are from. So in technology too, you have very, very different leadership style. Sundar Pichai and Satya Nadella are good listeners, not very aggressive, very assertive, but not very aggressive, uh, collaborative leaders. And you have people like Larry Ellison, who's a more aggressive in your face leader. Okay, or you have Traviek of Uber, who's now not there in Uber, very, very aggressive leader, very successful. Whom should I take? So what happens is that is the problem with trade, that you can never come up with one set of leader. After Bill Gates left and he stepped down, there was a gentleman called Steve Ballmer who became the CEO of this one, very, very aggressive, in your face person. Now, he didn't last too long. And, Satya Nadella, because then that style sort of helped the company and the company started doing well. People started responding to that size better. Now, Sundar Pichai is universally well regarded in Google. Most people who have worked with him say he's a great guy to work with. High collaborative sense. So that has worked for him. The point is that should be used in a new startup? I don't know. That is a problem with the trade theory of leadership, that you just couldn't come up with one style of leadership. What is the right one? We don't know. So it didn't do very well. Now, but some things that everybody they agree on. Leadership is about people. If you can connect to people, your leadership becomes easier. Okay. Now, I'm not making the difference between leadership and manager. You've heard this, you've seen all these memes that come, right? Personally, you should not be a leader, you should not be a manager, leader. Pankam, who's going to do planning? Who's going to do monitoring if you are not? Those are managerial tasks. Who's going to do paperwork? No, you can't only give inspiring speeches. Who's going to get their hands dirty and get the task done? That's a managerial task. So I don't think that you can make a difference between managers and leadership. I think both are important, but some things are universal. Now, they are good with people, but more importantly, they're able to assert their viewpoint. Okay, so what is assert? Have you heard this word assert? Assertive leadership? Okay, okay. What else? Without being rude. That I don't hurt feelings. I build relationships, but I still get my point across. I tell things nicely, but you get the message. That's about my principal Padmavati. Many years ago, I never saw her shout. She was always smiling. but you didn't mess with her. You didn't push her. She never shouted at us, but it was very clear that when she said something very nicely, very politely, with a great smile, you had no option but to say yes and that you will do it and get it done. So, assertive come. That can you tell things without hurting people, without shouting, without calling people names? You lazy guys, what are you doing? Instead of doing that, you tell things nicely, treat people like adults, and say that there is a logical reason why this has to be done and get that person to do it. Okay, do you have people in your company who are very good in assertive communication? Have you seen? Okay, so just give me some example of people who. Hmm. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So yeah. Yeah, yeah, HR also. It could be in any department. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else gives a personal example of that somebody who's assertive? Okay, so you, yeah, yeah, you want to say something? Hmm. Give me a minute. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So I agree. Many years. Huh? Somebody else was. Okay. So many years ago, I used to deal with a person called Arvind Agarwal, the best manager I've ever worked with. Uh, there were some 4 or 5 levels. I was directly reporting to the director marketing. So I was very.
Sir, we can't hear you. I think some noise came and completely muted. Sir, still can't hear you.
Hello.
Yes.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear. Thank you, sir.
ಇದು echo ಬರ್ತದೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ. Okay. Okay, so we were talking about okay. So talking about assertive communication, and I used to report to the director, and he would ask me very simple question. He would say, "Okay, what is the
So we can't hear you again.
Again, it went off.
Yeah, it's look like getting muted.
Really gave me a solution. He never sort of told me my ideas were bad. But if he didn't like an idea, he would make a very this one saying, okay, can you think of something else? He never told me my idea was bad. He never told me my idea was stupid and it was impractical. But he would be very polite and tell, can you think of something else? I don't know if this will work. And I would have to then say, okay, this is the other thing I did. But what happened was that I always learned a lesson that a person who was very sincere, was very senior, didn't pull rank, but he ensured through his leadership style that I was willing to do anything for him. I used to stretch like crazy just to ensure things got done. But that is the beauty of assertive communication. The other thing that all leaders do is that they set examples. Job and expects his team to do very well. So what do you think will happen if you have a leader who is very ineffective but whose team is very good? The team is over. Simple. In 6 months, the person is gone. Because the team is great. The team can manage without that person. This person has no impact on the team. Bye. That's what happens. Okay, so we lose people. Now, what is becoming more and more important is, have you heard of this concept called emotional intelligence? Yes. Okay, what is emotional intelligence?
The ability to convey not only the positive, but also, the negative, your anger, frustration in a very constructive manner.
Okay.
It's an ability to manage your emotions and ensure you manage the situation.
Yes,
And
so-
understand others' emotions and appropriately solve it.
Yeah, so both of you right is about the importance people are giving to emotions, because people realize that you can't do and you can't remove the emotions from human beings. You might use that and use that very well. So first, do you understand your own emotions? And secondly, do you understand emotions of others? And third, can you manage your emotions? In a trying situation, do you shout or do you do things? Are you calm? Are you showing you're in control? So that is becoming more and more important. When we are becoming more and more collaborative in leadership, that's becoming so. People with high EI, Sundar Pichai is an example of somebody with very high EI. That those people are found to be people with good leadership skills. People respond to them very well. So that's one thing that people are talking about. Now, yeah, to some extent, trades companies still believe trades can do that. But you cannot simply say that you can, just because that person has it is, this person is going to become an effective leader in my company. Not possible. Okay, it is not possible at all. On who? Many years when I was a senior manager and we used to recruit junior managers, people, first time leaders. Uh, I and the HR person would play a game and we would say, out of this lot, we have seen them for 2 or 3 years. They then get promoted as a people manager. Who would be the most effective leader? And in 2 years, none of us were able to pick up a person whose we thought will become. So the person we thought will become a great leader turned out to be a dud. And the person who actually we thought was not very good turned out to be an exceptional leader. So you could never predict on the basis. And these are people that we have interacted for 2 years. They're not exactly strangers. And if you have to do this in a 1 hour or 2 hour interview, remember it is more and more difficult. So it's not always possible to do that. And so what happens is that the Ohio State University became the first university to come up with a model for leadership. And they were the first people to talk about two things, which then became a standard in all the other leadership theories that follow. So they talked about initiating structure and consideration. That was what Ohio State did. Today we call this task orientation and people orientation. You've heard of task orientation and people orientation. Any of you have gone through a leadership training program? Okay, you've gone through. Okay, which leadership training program? Team handling. Okay, and similar sort of things. Okay, similar. Did you actually do a psychometric on what is your leadership style and all that? Did anyone do it? Psychometric is before hiring only. No. On what is your leadership style? Anything? Oh. If you're not, no problem. So what happened is that it is now very common to talk about task orientation and people orientation or team orientation. Now, in task orientation, which is called initiating structure in the Ohio study, what is there is that it is not to say that the manager is an heartless person and this person does not care about the team. It's not to say that. It is saying that what is the importance given to the manager? Does a manager or leader give more importance to the task or to the people, feelings, emotions? Which one would you give more importance? Now, there is no easy answer. There is no easy answer. In your own companies, I'm sure there are task-oriented leaders who also do well. I'm sure there are people-oriented leaders who also do well. They manage the team very differently. And there are different outcomes that come from both their teams. Now, is it very good to have one and not the other? No. Now, if a task-oriented leader is only looking at tasks, what happens is over a period of time, that person realizes that if you don't have the people component, you're an ineffective leader. So that person soon realizes that it is about humans and therefore you should bring that in. Similarly, if you're a people-oriented leader, you still realize that you also have to worry about the task. It's not only about happy people. It's also about completion of a task. So over a period of time, you will see that these leaders become more complete leaders. But we are talking about which is the dominant, which is something that you give more preference to, task or people. It's a balance. It's a balance. It's a constant balancing. Now, I'm sure if there is an escalation, then I don't think you really worry too much about people's feelings. Or there's a crisis in your company, not too much. Or if you have strict deadlines, then you're not very worried about that. Yeah, at other times, or if somebody is sick or somebody's parent is having this serious crisis, I'm sure there's a human side to that. You constantly balance the task orientation and the you're constantly balancing that. Because you can't always only look at the people, you finally have a job to do. who's going to do that task? So when you're talking about task orientation and people orientation, we're talking more about which of these do you give more preference. It is not to say that you can do one without the other. If you're only doing a people manager, then you're being a very popular leader. Everybody loves you, but then you will not last too long because there is no impact to the organization, to the bottom line. If you're only looking at then people will run away again, you will be an ineffective leader. So this was the first study that talked about that. And then so we'll talk about this Fiddler's contingency model. And this was a very, very different way of looking at leadership. Okay, so the Fiddler's contingency model came up there. So what we'll do is we'll actually look at things a little bit. So just open up your mobile, go to Google and look at LPC question. Just open up an LPC question. LPC questionnaire. If you can't see LPC, then type in least preferred co-worker. But LPC, you know, LPC, just open that. Least preferred co-worker scale. Co-worker question. Okay, so were you able to open up the questionnaire? Yes. Yeah, so open up the question. So if you open up the questionnaire, you're going to see that there are two extreme definitions on that person.
Sorry, sir, what do we have to Google?
LPC questionnaire. It is there on the screen. Can you see the LPC questionnaire? LPC. I'll just put a chat message too. Here's the screenshot. Okay, so somebody's sharing a screen. Okay. Okay, so if you see the LPC thing, there are in everything there are two extreme definitions of what a person is. Okay. Now the way you will fill up, if you are not filling up the questionnaire, you can do it at your leisure. But what you can do, and I would recommend that you do, is to fill it up. The way you will fill it up is that you would think about your a co-worker that you don't like too much. Okay. Of all the co-worker, which is the co-worker that you are working with or have worked that you least enjoy, least like, and you will keep that person in mind and fill the questionnaire on the traits of that individual, not your traits. Okay, so again, think of all your experience with working for co-workers. Think of somebody who's your least favorite co-worker. Keep that person in mind and fill in the traits as relevant to that individual, not for you, for that individual. So this was a very different way of looking at leadership. Most leadership surveys, most leadership questionnaires, there are other leadership questionnaires that you can also look at. The most common one is called a situational leadership questionnaire. You can also fill that up. It's an easy questionnaire to understand. So you can also look at situational leadership. This will also tell you what is your style of preferred style of leadership. That's another question. Huh? All this will help you understand what type of a leader you are or what type of leader you show preference for. What type of leadership style do you exhibit if asked for leadership? So that's what it does. Now, what it does is that it says that people who are most task oriented are more harsh when filling this up than people who are team oriented or people oriented. So the people oriented people tend to be gentler giving the feedback on an LPC questionnaire than compared to somebody who was a task oriented leadership. That was a premise in which this was done. So it's an indirect way of trying to figure out what your leadership style is. So that's also a very interesting way of doing it, which is why we talk about. You can use a situational leadership, which talks about 4 leadership styles, and it allows you to look at what is your preferred leadership style. That is another common leadership question that we follow. So let's look at Fiedler's model a little more in detail, and we. Okay, now what happens is that the Fiedler's model believes that the leadership style that you have is fixed, that everybody has one style of leadership or at least a dominant style of leadership that is used most of the time in most of the situation and with most of the people. The situational leadership model, on the other hand, believes that you need to change your leadership style depending on the situation. That's why it's called situational leadership, or on the person whom you're doing it. So you can't treat a person who is a newcomer the same way you will treat somebody who is experienced. So your leadership style needs to change and flex depending on who this person is. That is what is the situational leadership. What Fiedler believed is that it is not about it is when somebody becomes a leader, this person has one style. It is not possible for this person to change the style, and this person uses this in most of the situations. So that is the basic difference between the situational leadership and okay. So what did Fiedler say? Now, what are the 3 things is that in this, when you're talking about what is the relation between the leader and the member? How is the task? And how much of power does the leader have? Now, a leader may have a lot of power and authority. A leader may not have too much of power and is constrained by the bosses, by the other structure that exists in the company. It could be on that. So, what did Fiedler say? So, Fiedler made a very, very interesting observation. And this is contrary to what most people expect. When the going is very good, or the going is not very good, when the situation that the leader is faced with is not very good, lot of escalations, lot of the task is not getting completed, deadlines not being met, profit targets not being met, that situation, Fiedler says that the task-oriented leaders do better than the people-oriented. This is easy to understand. Yeah. When things are not going well, you don't really care too much about the situation. You're more worried about ensuring that there is survival. So nobody cares too much of whether you are feeling sad, whether you're motivated or not. People are more worried about retaining the job. So they are more worried about that. So you ensure that everybody's focus, including the leader's focus, is on the task. Easy to understand? This is what we believe. Now, this is where Fiedler makes a very interesting assertion. He says when things are going very well, task-oriented leaders do better than people-oriented. Because when things are going well too, I don't really care about how people think. Things are going well. And in a situation which is neither here nor there, people-oriented leaders do well. So in the middle, this is where you have the middle. That is where people-oriented leaders do well. Because here, you need people to stretch a little, to maybe take on more responsibilities, maybe do things a little differently. And therefore, you have to influence these people, persuade them, cajole them. The people skills come into play. If things are black or white, if you're doing either too badly or too well, task-oriented leaders do it. That has been the finding of that. Now, this is contrary to find other people who believe that when things are going well, you need to be very nice to people. Fiedler said, no, the data shows that task-oriented leaders do well, even in companies where things are going well, because you don't have to worry too much about that. There has been some evidence of that in real life too. So, all of you know Steve Jobs. When Steve Jobs was the head of Apple, Apple did phenomenally well. Now, he was not very nice to people, doing very well, because he knew that he could get all the talent in the world. You didn't like him and you left, you can be easily replaced. He said that what we are all trying to do is to come up with the coolest products. So the task will be more important, products are more important. And if I shout at a few people, so what? But if you are in a startup that is somewhere in between, you're trying to go public in say the next 3 years, then you can't afford to lose key people. Then you can't get task oriented and say, no, this has to be done, I don't care. You can't get into that side of leadership. Then you need to balance your task orientation with people orientation. So you will connect with people, you will talk to people, you will have off-site meetings, you will have parties, you will do all that to get people together on your side. So you will try to do that when you're neither here nor there. That is when people orientation works well. When things are going great or they're going terribly, the leader is expected to be more task oriented. That is what Fiedler found it. You can find out how good you are. Those of you who are leaders, you could use this to find out your leadership style, how much of task oriented or people oriented you are. And finally, you have to do that. Now, I used to work for the Tatas many years ago. I haven't found a more people-friendly, employee-friendly company than the Tatas. But even there, the job has to be done. You know, you will not grow in Tatas if your track record is poor, just because you're a very nice people person and people around you, your team up, finally the job has to be done. It is a hard-nosed financial company. The financial results matter. What they look at is profit at the end of the day. Yes, but the way we are going to do it is by being nice to people. Yes. So finally, if you get too people-oriented, then people might take you for a ride. You get too task-oriented, you might become pushy, so people don't like the way you handle them, and you might lose good people. So, like everything in management, it's about balance. Can you balance these? Can you be both? So, how do you do that? I think all leaders struggle. And I'm telling you this after a lot of leadership experience. At all levels, you struggle with that. You have a job to be done, but you also have people to be kept happy. So it's a constant struggle to do that. I think that's the beauty of leadership. So if those of you aspiring for leadership positions, I think that is the joy of leadership. And that is also the frustration of leadership when your team doesn't cooperate with you, when the team doesn't agree to do what you want them to do. Trying to get them to do it. That is no leader has absolute authority, which means that you just can't indiscriminately fire people. It doesn't happen. So your hands are tied. So you need to learn to manage both these. So that's what happens with Fiddler. Now, the situational leadership that we were talking about, the situation, we'll just talk a little about situational leadership. Now, have you, if you, I don't know if some of you have read books written by a gentleman called Ken Blanchard. Have you heard of a book called Ken Blanchard? He writes books which are very easy to read, about 100 pages. So Ken Blanchard is also an academician. So he along with a gentleman called Hershey, came up with the situational leadership model. So the question they ask successful leaders is, would you act the same in all situations? Do you? So the question was, in what situation would you act differently? And they found that there are 4 different leadership styles that emerge. So the first one is only task orientation. 2, something which is where the leader is only present and he only supports, he only cajoles, but leaves the management of tasks to the individual. So the 4 leadership style, you can download a situational leadership. It goes by many names, all of them inspired by the same theory. They call it leadership windows. Some of the questioners call it leadership windows. Others call it the situational leadership questionnaire. So you could come up with a questionnaire, and you could look at your own leadership style. They talk about 4 leadership styles, and they say that the successful, effective managers are those who can flex their leadership style depending on who and what the situation is. Okay, so if the situation requires you to take complete control and be a complete task oriented, you will do it. But if tomorrow that is not the situation, you will go back to your old leadership style. So you will change your leadership style. Which is more effective? Depends on you, depends on the situation. Okay, now. The next leadership style is the model of okay. The leader participation model simply takes is that how much should you allow people to participate in decision making? Do you think all of you are team members? Do you participate in decision making? Okay, some of them. Do you think it's a good idea for the leader to involve people in decision making? Yeah. What do you think is the advantage what happens when the leader allows you to be part of the decision? I'm not saying the leader should allow you to take the decision. Create transparency. Transparency creates buy-in. Have you heard of this word called buy-in?
Getting the consensus.
Yeah, so when there's a consensus, it is no longer the leader's decision, it is all our decision. So the chance of somebody implementing them is higher. Should you do it in all situations? No, but in some situations you could try where you want buy-in, then you can allow people to do that. Right? So a good leader is somebody who allows people to take a decision on certain areas and lives with the decision, even if the decision is not what the leader wants. If the team decides on something, for example, what happens if there's a lot of work in the weekend?
The weekdays, the following weekdays actually gets filed.
Okay, so that could be one way, or you could work in the weekend, never a popular choice. A good leader allows the team to take the decision, saying that this has to be done by Monday 5 o'clock. It is not done by Friday 5 o'clock. How should we do it? You don't need to okay. So more autonomy. We are talking about collaboration. So it also allows people to think that they are able to get into the decision-making process. Okay, so you were talking about the Japanese. The Japanese are great believers in consensus leadership. Were you working for a Japanese company? Okay. If you work for a Japanese country, it is frustrating to see the time they take a decision. And without exception, all decisions have to be agreed by everyone. That is how the Japanese work. There is endless discussion. Endless. 9 people agree, 1 person does not. It is the responsibility of the 9 people to convince or to come up with another scheme so that that person agrees. It is not to say 9 have agreed, let's take a decision. No. So what happens is, why do they do that? So that there is absolute consensus. It's a joint decision. And once a decision is taken, there is no going back. Yeah. Now, after that, if you find a problem, you have to solve it. Not the group's problem, your problem, solve it. But if you have to, say, to give you an idea, have all of you been in cases where your company shifted office from one place to another?
Yes.
Okay, the Japanese way of doing it. I've seen it in work, so I can tell you practically. The Japanese come up with a transitioning plan. So they actually present a transaction plan. It is sent to you by email. They have a presentation. They explain the rationale. Why did they decide on the? And then they ask for people's input. And people then they know this is not right, that is not right, this, that. All that is taken and they come up with another. Another plan is again put. And this goes on till everybody signs off and says, I agree to the plan. When they are moving, it needs to follow the plan to the team. For example, they say, okay, I have to move that bottle from that table to this table and I've given 5 minutes to do it. If I have finished it in 1 minute, I can't go to the next task. That's not the plan. I then wait for 5 minutes. And then do the other. So it works like clockwork. When the final thing happens, it is like a ballet in motion. No confusion whatsoever. Now we have all been in when we have moved things, our files don't come, the internet is not working. None of that happens. Very smooth. Why? Because there have been endless discussions on how it needs to be. That's the Japanese style. It works for them. I'm not saying that that should be what you follow, but that's an interesting style. Okay, so now what happens is that this is an interesting thing that when teams became very big and the managers started managing teams of 20 or 25, how big are your teams? 350. One leader. Okay, 350.
450, but we have TLs, AMs, DMs.
Yeah, so you have people, but how many people do they manage?
1 is to 60.
50.
1 is to 60. TL, it is 1 is to 20.
Okay.
When it comes to AM, DM, again, it is 1 is to 40, 1 is to 60, and then it goes on. The ratio changes.
Okay, so is it possible for a leader to build relation with even 20 people?
Yes.
To know what exactly each of those 20 people are doing, to build a personal equation becomes difficult. So what will the leader do? The leader, what happens, the leader depending on somebody who's performing very well or somebody the leader is very comfortable with, develops relationships with a few people and has a formal relation with the rest of them, which is what the leader member exchange is. That for some of them, you will follow, you will have a very close relationship, you will build a bond. For the rest of them, you will have a formal relation. It is not to say that you will treat them badly. It is that you probably will interact with them only in meetings or on the mail. The other people you will have personal meeting because it may not be possible for all of you to build relationship with 20 people. Or you might think that this person is my best performer. I'm going to build a relation with that because I could get this person to do more. The rest of the average people, I'll maintain a formal relation. I'll be nice to them. This is not to say that I will play favorites, but that I am going to develop relations with a few people and a formal relation. So let me ask you a question. Do you think it is good for a leader to have favorites? No, not always. Should everyone be treated equally?
Yes.
How many of you think that not everyone should be treated equally? Okay, only one person. Okay, two people. Okay, why do you think? They all think that they will be.
Okay, in that case, even when you do something out of the crowd, if you're treated just like everyone else, why should you take an initiative?
Okay, so yeah, okay, so socialism doesn't work. Okay,
Just now, this one guy started yesterday, and I should show a different kind of leadership, and the one who is already working 5 years. I cannot treat both of them same.
okay, so I probably have a relation with that guy who is fine.
Situational, and it depends
Okay,
whom will you are treating.
okay, but why do all of you feel that it should be treated equal?
That is also true. You can treat them as humans. You respect everyone. When it comes to that kind of thing, of course, you treat everyone equally. But when it comes to situational and particular person, of course, things change.
No, I'm not saying that you should treat the other people badly. But should all be treated equally? Should the people who are performing better get more air time? You understand air time? The time the manager spends with the team member. Do you think the people he should spend more time with high performers or with low performers? Low performers. Okay, should he spend a lot of time with average performers? Not average. Sometimes. Okay, if the poor leader has limited time, the person has 8 hours, he has his own meeting, his own planning, he has got all that thing. There is some amount of time that he devotes towards the managing people face to face. So in that, should he spend more time with the top performers, medium performers, or low performers? Low performers. Anybody thinks that they should be with high performers?
Normally, what I practice is in the office hour, I spend my time with non-performers.
Okay.
After office hour, whenever I walk out from the office in the parking, I discuss with the performer. That much time is enough because they are
Okay.
already performing.
Okay.
They require only the guideline.
Okay.
For non-performers, they require from basics, from where, how, when they should plan and execute it.
Okay.
This is how I do it.
Okay. Fine. No, you what's your name?
Prerna.
Okay, Prerna, you were saying that I've done something well. I shouldn't be treated with others, but you think everybody should be treated equally?
As in, okay, so they should be treated equally when it comes to, how people should be treated.
Hmm.
Okay, but when you are like going out of the box and doing something extra, you deserve that little extra what you have done, you deserve that, recognition.
Okay. So let me ask you a question. Okay, now, suppose Prerna is the top performer, I'm an average lower performer, and what's your name?
Kiran.
Kiran is a manager. I have an idea, Prerna is a lady. She's a top performer. Which one do you think the manager will be more willing to listen?
Low performer.
But actually, he has to listen to both.
Both.
Limited time. I'm a human being.
Okay, depending on the priority of, what the job is for which you require an idea. If it is an urgent job, you'll be like, okay, the top
No.
performer tell it.
No, sir. Okay, I'll only tell you my idea. You are free to disagree, and I like disagreement too. When I was a leader, again, I had limited time. I had a tough boss to manage. I had my customers to manage and the tasks to be managed, and I had to build relationships. So I prioritize my time with the top performer. My logic was that if I keep these people happy and they're producing 100, these people will produce 110, 120. They have the ability to produce 100. If I spend time with my low performer, that person is producing 10. Maybe if I push this person very hard, he'll go to 11 or 12. So I get more selfish motive that I get more if I'm nicer to the top performer than to the, okay, that is my view of me. It is not to say that should be universal. Some people say, let me get my, there are more not very good performers, so I think they should be done well. Now, I'm not saying that you should be rude or you should not talk to people who are not performers. I'm only talking about priority. I'm only talking about investing more time in the top performers. I'm talking about supporting the top managers, top performers more than the not very good performers. Okay, so I come from a sales background. So in sales, people are not very nice. So this is how they treat. If you're a bottom performer, you don't get hurt at all. Some of you come from other backgrounds, so where people are a lot nicer in sales, they're not. So that is about. So when you're talking about that, you could decide. Usually, managers come up with some way. They have some way of saying, okay, let's have. So one way of doing it is that I will meet my top performers individually. I'll meet the rest of them in groups. I will have a meeting with them. I will also tell them everything that they have to be told. I will support them. I will give them the resources they need, but I will do that as a group rather than as individual. The top performer, I will tell that person, we're getting a new scheme, we're getting a new tool, we're coming with a new process. I'm going to tell that thing to that person because I want to hear inputs from my top performer. The inputs from the team can come for the average and lower performing. I'm going to talk to them individually because I have limited time. I can't do it. So that is one way of doing it. So this is what the leader exchange, member exchange talked about. So what's my, okay. Yeah. Do we take a break now or can we wait for about 10 minutes?
10 minutes.
10 minutes?
10:45 will take a break.
Okay.
10:45 to 11.
So what are now what have yeah.
The challenge.
Oh please, let's listen to.
The
Yeah.
leader has the challenge of striking the balance here. It's more about, because when we do not give that interest and when we do not give that importance, right? I understand low performance and high performance, but when that equal importance is not given to both, I'm not talking about the time, but talking about how we treat them, right? This could actually lead to disinterest and attrition.
Yeah, true.
Right? Because instead of we looking at hiring, training and all that, maybe we could spend a little, time more with the low performers. Again, it's based on the situation, based
absolutely.
on the requirement at that time. Right? So that we could
please,
work with the low performers to move them up if we could do
Yeah,
that,
true.
right? Instead of losing them and then working on completely new set of people. So there's a challenge with the
Yeah, it
leaders.
is. No, I totally agree with you that it is not easy.
Right.
And I just take her point, I'll just come to you. My only thing is that who are you most comfortable with leaving? The low performer, the high performer. The high performer is pampered. The low performer is treated with respect at best. Low performer, I'm not going to be mean to you is the benchmark. I am going to grit my teeth and not tell you bad words, which is useless fellow, you're not been doing anything, you want lot of things. I'm not going to tell you all that, but I'm going to be respectful is the benchmark, a very low thing. The high performer, I'm nice to the person, I'm willing to listen to the person. I'm saying, what is their problem? Even low performer comes and the person says that I have a problem. What do? Deal with it. Everybody has problems. I may not be so rude, but I would. So is it the right method? No. Yeah. So the point is that you're right. If you see that the low performers have some spark, and that spark you can build on and get them to perform, great.
There is a logical point behind that, sir, because let's say out of the 100% of our team, right, 20 to 30% could be bottom quartile performers. when we talk about extreme performers, right, they could actually come up to maybe around 20. So that is 50%. But the next 50%, which is the mediocre performers, right, they actually come a chunk. Now,
Yes.
I mean, leader definitely can't say that I would give high priority, needs to be given to the high performers, but we cannot ignore this,
You can't.
which is 50%. Which
That's
was-
what I'm saying. I'm saying that you could decide, top performer, I will be nice and smile and have a one-on-one meeting. The others, okay, 10 of you who are saying, you're still important to me. I'll spend 1 hour trying to explain the new process. Bottom performers, I will send you an email with the process. I will prior. So, is it, am I being rude to person? Am I giving a message? Maybe. Okay, again, let me, before I come, one strong one. I'm not saying this is the only way to manage. I'm only telling you from my experience. You know, if you decide, I have found, personally, I have found that bottom performers after about 2 years, there is a reason why they're bottom performers. Knowledge and skill levels are low and or there is misfit in that. Correcting that will take a lot of time and effort, and the result might be, it is not always guaranteed. Whereas a top performer, if I spend time with the top performer, coaching the person, mentoring the person, performance increase is going to be huge and is beneficial. So it is my own personal thing is, I have not had too much of success mentoring. The middle part, yes, is very important that you manage them. They need to be managed. So you pamper them, you're nice to the middle thing, and you tolerate the knock. That was my month. Is it the right thing? I'm again saying that it worked for me. It's not always to say that's the right. Yeah.
In that case, like in adding to a point, so in such a situation, I think that is where delegation comes into picture, right? Okay, you have limited time and you're spending most of the time with your best performer, and the best performer is doing his job. They, like, your job of spending time with the mediocre and the lower performers can be delegated to your best performers, so they can given some time and attention to them, like the lower performers, to make them better instead of your time being invested there.
Okay. Yeah, I'll just take off. Has anybody tried this?
Always,
Always
we will make a group.
will group, you will put some
One top
with some
performer,
toppers with the main performer. And what will that top performer do?
you will guide them, whatever the daily activities or the practice, good practices, he'll share it with them. He'll guide them. Normally. If you are there, step also.
He tends to do, okay, I'll take your point. He either bosses over them or ignores them. He is saying, boss, your job is to manage these duffers, not mine. You know how to do it, so you're giving this to me. I'm a top performer. Management can't be delegated. You have to still do it. It is your headache, not the top performers. You are putting a millstone round his neck, an albatross round his neck, and you are going to ensure that person who should be doing his or her job better. You are telling that person do this. I have not seen this succeed in too many places.
Okay, so
But,
now when someone is a top, you definitely, they will definitely step up in career. They will take the position of a lead. And as a lead, you are a manager. As a lead, their job is to lead those people.
Yeah, that is for that. When they go to another team, there is no certainty that the top performer will become a great manager. Even if you give this person to manage, there is no certainty this person has leadership skills and can improve. I can do my job very well. Can I get performance from others? It requires different skill set.
Yeah, see, when you are like, grooming someone, you're not making them do a job. So you're not managing them, you're teaching them how to do their job.
You're not going to teach them by giving them a low performance. It's a very, very difficult task. You could frustrate a top manager. That is my viewpoint. That is my viewpoint. I believe that it is the leader's job to manage those people who are not performing. Because you could have, have you had the cases of low performers with the wrong attitude?
Yeah.
Yes.
They will run roughshod over those poor top performers. This person will go with the thing, you know what you should do. The person says, no, I'll not do it. Because we are peers. Why should I listen to you? You can do nothing. Remember that the leader can do two things. The leader can get you promoted, the leader can get you fired. If I delegate that, that person can do neither. So why should I listen? Oh, you want me to work hard, why should I? The top leader is saying, my boss, he should be managing that. Why does he give all the dirty job to me? And it also shows that you're not very confident of managing those people, not being a top boss. So optic wise, I would say, don't do this. If you have a person, you could make a top performer group and say, all of you talk to each other, share ideas. I will moderate that group so that we all learn and we all do well. And I might be willing to do it because the other person is also doing very well. I might learn something. And that person is willing to share because I'm doing well. So that might work.
But that groupism will definitely cause disengagement of all the people.
Yeah. Do you think there's no disengagement on performance? Do you see in your teams that a top performer is very friendly with the bottom performer? Doesn't happen. There is groupism in any case. Why? There is pride. I think I'm a top performer. So whether you tell that person or not, there is groupism. You know the bottom guys are saying, what does the person think? Just because the person has a nose in the air. Yeah. Why does the top performer do? Because the top performer is recognized by the top management. The top management knows the top performer, probably knows a few of the older mediocre performers, does not know the bottom thing. All this happens. So I would say don't do that. And the better thing to do for you is to mentor and coach that person. You have an individual coaching session with those newcomers especially. They need to be taught, mentored, pushed to do the right thing. Okay, so lots of things are given. So the mantra for all this, have you heard this word called empower?
Yeah.
Now you need to empower the bottom performers. You need to give them the power and the confidence to believe they can perform. And only you can do. Nobody else can do. You as a leader can also order them, tell them to do things, and they will. They will not listen to you. They will not listen to the. And okay, I had team members who were not very cooperative. They wouldn't have done something. Yeah.
So what about the present day startups where the teams are over competitive? They are not too big, but even the small teams, they are over competitive. So even if a single guy feels that he's ignored or even let down for a week, he just leaves off the company.
Yeah. No, but startups are also have extreme expectations from the team members. There is no room for mediocre performance. If you are not meeting at least 80% of what is expected, you are not there. Startups are extreme pressure cooker situation. So if you're a mediocre guy, you're not able to handle that, you're out in any case.
So how does the leader should handle in such situations? Because right now we see startups every now and then where leaders are not able to manage that.
They're not able to manage it. I think they're doing a poor job. Now, anybody works for a startup? Okay, some of you work for a startup. What made you join a startup?
Good salary.
Good salary, that's all. Okay.
Team management.
Okay, you like the team management? Okay.
So here, like they gave an example, right? The difference between high performers and low performers. We are a group of 40 people, one team leader manages the 40 people. So we don't have anything as such as a low performer and a high performer. Everyone's treated equally. So maybe one person might be good at something, another person might be good at something. So whenever we have a discussion, like whenever there's some important topics that we want to give inputs on, we all sit together, take inputs from the team. We agree to each one of them or correct them then and there, like if they're wrong. Maybe one person might know well in one topic, another one might not know something else. The same thing is like vice versa, anytime, differs to topic to topic. So everyone learns new things every day. So we give chances to everyone. I think that's much better than deviating things like low performer, high performer, or
No. I'm not going to decide on low performer. The leader doesn't. The team decides. The team decides.
Yeah. So that's my whole point. Why is there a gap between or dividing people wherein they start getting more anxious, saying why am I put into
this, like usually
No,
that's how
no.
people.
No. No one puts them into the bracket. As a team, you know whether you are, the way the team responds to you, whether the team is very, see, remember, in your situation, if there are 40 employees and 10 of them, for example, I'm sure they're all great people, but 10 of them don't perform, the other 30 have to take care of that work also. It is never a nice feeling.
That's,
So I'm not going to be nice to these people. Every day I come, this person is not performing. I'm expected to work harder. I'm expected to stay longer because these guys are not. The team starts treating them badly. The team starts getting irritated with them, not me.
so I don't know if I'll be in the wrong place here, but we had an instance here, like past few days, like there was medical emergencies, like we are a team of, let's say that 40 people were on Ramzan holidays and everything. So we had to be a team of 5 people. So wherein like the work of like 40 people is put to 5
Yeah.
people. So when we are trying to help our team members as well, so when we are in need, that's when they also come into place, right? So put like
No,
different.
that's an emergency situation.
No,
I'm talking
like-
performance on a daily basis.
Also.
On a
Like,
daily basis.
Yeah, on a daily basis.
6
that's
months, I'm not doing. I'm expected to do, for example, 100. My productivity has to be 100. I'm doing 80. That 20 has to be my, who's going to do that 20? Rest of the team members. Are they going to be
When
very
you're
happy?
put into a team, you should try to help the other people, right? That's what your
It's
point
very
is.
unpopular after some time. It's all very nice for the first 2-3 months. They say, yeah, team member, team is.
Maybe you want to in their situation one day, and sometimes they might not.
Finally, growth is also the same, no? A non-performer cannot be given a growth.
Okay, I don't know.
The performer will try to.
So when on top point of growth, so when you are doing your part, when the managers recognize you, your work also, why are you worried about your growth?
No, the point, okay. So now,
Just to summarize the point, I
What
am in
about
the
my
same.
growth?
okay, one. We're listening to a
I'm
different.
in the same situation. We have a team of 50. I am reporting to my senior manager and director. Everyone has their own expertise. The moment we underperform, the director or the senior manager reports, and the threshold is not 80 or this, it's like 95%. So we have to perform because they are paying us so huge and they are doing everything. So we have to perform that way. But there is no chance of us going down. So there is no low performer or high performer.
You have to hit 95. Do what you want.
Yeah, do what you.
Yeah,
That's
that's what you
why
mean.
something called as PIP plans these days as well, wherein every week you are tested on whatever you're doing.
Yeah,
for the
but
knowledge.
PLP in, I don't know about your company, but in a lot of companies that has become more of an warning signal rather than PIP in the actual sense of the
Warning
PLP.
signals come, usually I think most of the companies follow the same thing. In the past 2 companies that I've been, PIP warning signal comes only after 3 attempts of your PIP. Like if you are not doing even after 3 attempts of the performance improvement plan, that's when they give you a warning.
Oh, I think very generous in my opinion. I'm saying that
Also listening for the
in
first
3 months, if you don't see substantial.
So when we are put like.
But I'm not a very nice person. I give you all these ideas. But I personally think that in 3 months, after being told you're a terrible performer, you'll be thrown out if I don't see substantial improvement, that person should be assumed.
Sorry, because it's, it depends on differs company to company.
Yes.
PIP is called for when there is 3 months or 4 months consistent
Non-performance.
And then you put the person on PIP and you say, okay, 60 to 90 days you will have to show the improvement.
Yeah.
And in case there is no improvement shown, then the 4th month you will be let go. Because there's no, in case if there is improvement, then definitely they will give some more time. But if there is absolutely no improvement and there is no involvement and not taking the support which is provided, then absolutely that calls for letting that person go.
Yeah, and I do agree that it brings a lot of anxiety to that person who's been put on that. Also, the way the team looks at that person is not very positive.
In that way, when like a manager spends most of their time only with the top performer, doesn't the top performer might end up getting that leverage that okay, I can do whatever shit I want. The manager likes me anyway.
Isn't that how it usually happens?
Not really.
Okay.
No.
Okay, nice. Yeah.
So you said that we have to empower the local.
Yes.
But on the other side, you also said you would be spending a lot of time with high performers.
Yes.
Then if you are spending a lot of time with the high performers,
Okay, please, we'll just take a break. Just bear with me.
so if you are spending a lot of time with the high performers, what is your idea of how do you empower this low performance
Yes.
without spending the time?
My point to you exactly is how do you do that? For example, why do people are low performers? Usually knowledge and skill level. Usually. If they have attitude issues, they should be asked. If the problem is knowledge and skill level, you can empower people with training programs. You can empower people with one mentoring session and say the next one will happen after 1 week, but I want you to do all this. Do you think it will help if somebody's knowledge
If it is only related to the skills, then yes.
or knowledge?
Knowledge, then yes, maybe the trainings can support them. But what if it is not something related to the skills or
If it's a
Like
very-
what? You know, if personally, I would say if the performance is due to any other reason, and it has nothing to do with the leader or the team, then it is a person's problem. The person has to solve the problem. Then the manager, whether manager spends time or doesn't spend time, it doesn't matter. Doesn't help.
Sir, I-
So empowering is you're saying, okay, I have noticed that you don't have this, or can you do this? I don't know how to code in Python. Fine, I'll help you. I'll teach you Python. I'll send you to a training program. Then we'll both sit and see which are the problems you're having. I will help you with that. Empowering people. But I have a wrong attitude. I don't want to learn. Sorry, out of the bid. Okay, so it depends on, or I'm having family problems, not my problem. As a leader, I can't solve it. I'm not getting involved. If you're having all that thing, you have to manage it yourself. Nothing to do with what my leader thinks. I'm again coming back. Why do I do it? Not because I'm a bad person, but because I have no time. There's little time I have, which I can talk to my team members. I need to spend more time with my top. Okay, now, you know, it works for me. You want to spend time with others, please do it. I'm telling you what I did. What was my method? You were saying something.
About a question. In case it is really issue, there's no point in actually spending time and effort. Because when the person himself is not involved, then it's of no use. I think such people needs to be let go.
Yeah, yeah.
The people who are showing interest, but they are lacking on skill is where we can invest our time. Because definitely.
So I totally agree with you. I'll give you examples. You know, I had a team member who I put on PIP 4 times, met all parameters of the PIP 4 times, and then wouldn't perform. I can't put him on PIP right now, which means 6 months I have to let that person do what is that. Again PIP, again the person would be. What this person was doing is working 3 months a year. 3 months this person would work very hard, has the knowledge and skill. Lazy guy, very distracted, would work very hard. After 4 attempts, we had a serious talk with him and saying, you are an extraordinary person. You're so extraordinary that you don't fit in here. Please look further. So I think, you know, how do I empower this person? The person has the knowledge, skill, has shown performance, but the rest of the time doesn't bother. You know, all sorts of excuses given, you know, I'm not well, pet dog was having a problem, all sorts of excuses. 6 months. Then you say, okay, fine, PIP, this is what? 3 months work very hard to meet all the parameters. Okay, now you are again safe. Then don't worry, for 6 months I can't give you. So you have people who take the system for run. So is that person with the wrong attitude? Yes, what should I do? I can't. Training, mentoring, coaching does not help. Waste of time. Okay, so you have very okay. Do you have difficult? Those of you manage. Do you have difficult team members?
Yes.
It's a combination of.
Yeah. So
Always.
yeah. So these difficult team members are very important because they teach you leadership. You learn leadership because everybody is agreeing to you. Then you never learn leadership. You now have to put your head and say, okay, fine. Oh, this person, I need to do something different. You need to figure out things. So it teaches you leadership. So these are the people who teach you leadership. Okay, so I think enough has been said. So let's have a break. Can we be back in 10 minutes? 15 minutes. The earlier you come back, the earlier you all leave. So you get a longer life. Okay, so left to you. Okay, it's 5 to 11, 11:10 we start. 11:10 in my watch we start.
I think that, well, after coming back, we should continue. She told 40 members. So all the 40s, we should be treated same way. Whom we will be promoted to the next level.
No,
We can't give a growth to anyone.
You can give growth to 4 people.
4 people. So on that, who is the best? Only we can give it. Performer, not for a non-performer.
You can't promote. No, but again, the problem is
Put it on a practical, on HR.
you can't maintain relationship with 40 people.
It should be only 4 people.
Maybe
Maximum 6 to 8 members.
So,
Not
see, that
everyone.
will happen normally. You'll start speaking to these people because they are the people who are running your initiative, the new things that these people are doing it, the tougher jobs, tougher problems these people are solving. So you will end up speaking more time. No, I know. I agree that a lot of people feel bad, the other people feel bad. Yeah, they should continue.
Which company was that?
I come from financial service.
I'm from financial services.
Okay, so I was, you HDFC, I was in HDFC. Where do you work?
Means part of engineering.
Okay, I was with HDFC Life.
Okay.
So, then I was with the Tatas, I was looking at Tata. Okay, so I was in, there was a finance company floated by the Tatas, so which got closed down. So I was there and then I moved to the insurance sector. I was with Kotak before that.
My brother was there in both the organizations.
Okay.
Hotel, right?
No. It was in, I was in Kotak Mahindra Finance, which is now Kotak Bank.
Okay.
So I was with the financial thing. So
I had auto loan and two-wheeler for Karnataka.
okay. So I started auto loans, I started their corporate business for them. Okay. You don't have that. Where it was a much smaller company than.
Yeah, now it is.
Okay, so you come, let's have a cup of
Sure,
coffee, then we.
ಈ ಸಿಚುವೇಶನ್ ಇದೆ and actually no myself but ನಮ್ಮ ancestors ಬಂದು ತಮಿಳ್ನಾಡಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದು so ನಾನು ಮಾತಾಡೋ ಕನ್ನಡ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಡಿಫ್ರೆಂಟ್ ಹಳೆ
रोल 11 we are that उसको हमने यहाँ पे 5 मिनट पकड़ लिया कहाँ से नहीं कल का भी सेंड कर देंगे कल के बाद हम कर देंगे क्या कल का भी करना कर सकते हैं क्या नहीं कर देंगे तो कोई इसको क्या कर कैसे भी समझ में नहीं आता है क्या बोलता है अकाउंट का क्या करना है पर्सनल नंबर कंप्लीट सेलेक्ट करके रख दिए नहीं हाँ बस का भी डाल दिया डाल देंगे क्या मतलब नहीं कल सुबह मैं कोई काम नहीं आया अकाउंट का समझने में आता यार तो our read good sir thank you
Okay, can we start? Okay, now let's look at some of the things that have been found that to be effective. Can you have show a vision about how things are going to be because of a leader? Do you talk about the future? Do you talk about what is the benefit of something that you're talking about? Do you articulate a vision? Okay, now the second thing is that personal risk is an important part of a leader's thing. Are you willing to stick your neck out, or do you always play safe? If a leader is playing safe, the team members see it not very effective. You might, I'm not saying you should take risk and jeopardize the entire thing, but are you willing to stand up when something is wrong, when there's injustice? Are you willing to support a team member? That is what we are talking about, risk, because there's obviously risk to you. Are you sensitive to the needs of what the follower wants? Okay, so for example, when there is an appraisal, okay, all of you been appraised? Okay, now those of your leaders know your team is never happy with appraisal. How do you handle it is very important. How do you handle the entire thing? So are you sensitive to the fact that that person uh, that the person is a little disappointed? Now, can you sometimes do things? Can you think out of the box? Can you do something to ensure the team is engaged? That is some of the things that they do. Okay, we are not. Okay, we talked about this. Now, you could have, we just talk about this thing and then move on to the next thing. Now, you could have leaders who are very good, who can get a lot of followers, but who do things which are wrong, which is the dark side of that. So we look at the dark side trilogy and then, okay, we look at, you could have leaders who are toxic. Have you heard of this phrase called toxic leaders? Who support wrong practices or create an environment which is hostile, or it breeds wrong behavior. That is toxic side. So there's a dark side to charismatic leadership. If the leader is not very good, so have you heard of an organization called Bharat Pay? And have you heard of this guy called Ashneer Grover? Okay, now Ashneer Grover was thrown out of Bharat Pay because of wrongdoing. He was the leader. He would shout at people, use a lot of Punjabi galis, lot of, so people felt disrespected. People were humiliated. To add to that, his wife was doing a lot of financial fraud, and this person is now on YouTube, and this person has a YouTube with a huge following. I don't know for what. So this person who created a wrong organization, unfortunately, a lot of people consider this person a role model. Unfortunately, a lot of people say that what he's doing is the right thing, and you should shout at people and scream and use a lot of bad language. So that is life. You know, it's a democracy. You can follow whoever you want to, but sometimes you could have leaders creating a really lot of very, very bad environment. And we'll just talk about what is transactional and transformational leadership. Now, one type of leadership is where you maintain status quo, that you just grow as much as the market is growing. Don't try to do anything out of the ordinary. And the other one are transformational leadership, where you transform the organization and you ensure that this organization, grows multifold because of your leadership ability. Now, it is not always necessary to have transformational leadership, but when the opportunity is present, can you exhibit transformational leadership? So that is another thing that we are concerned about. Okay, so um, what are some of the things that transformational leaders do? They talk about creativity. Can we look at creativity? For example, all of you know Ola, right? All of you know that Ola is into electric vehicles. Now, the biggest problem that happens with any company is that you need to set up a dealer network. And the dealer network is something that takes months and years to develop. And it is not always possible for you to get good dealers because it takes a lot of money and not everybody wants to do. So it's a big problem. Ola said, okay, we are not going to have dealership. You know, what does the dealership do? The dealership, they repair your vehicles. We'll do that online. Just like you get your water, your washing machine repaired, just like you get your refrigerator, you call us, we'll come to your house and repair. I don't need a dealership. We're going to have experiences. So can you come up with creativity? Can you look at new ways of solving that? With one stroke, they actually got a big advantage because it would have taken them about 2-3 years to actually set up a distribution network. And they are able to sell it to tier 3, tier 2, tier 4 towns without a dealer network. Just having a network of people who will go and repair the product. Do you delegate? Do you allow people to, do you give them the responsibility, authority to do the job? Are you willing to take a little risk? There's always a risk with any action. Not doing something is also risky. So are you willing to take a calculated risk as a leader? The next one is the compensation and what you're doing, the benefits you're doing. Do you pay people for long-term results or for short-term results? How do you pay people for long-term results? Only if the company does well in the long term will you get reward. How will I ensure bonus hikes are short-term benefits? How do I ensure long-term benefits to you? Equity. Give them ESOPs. So only if the company does well, only if my share price goes up, will you get benefit. And if you are working towards that, then you work towards it for your own sake because you have to grow. And then the organization goals and how they're going to meet the organization goals among the top management should be very clear. This is about some of the things about. Okay. Now we look at one last thing, and now there is this entire thing that goes, which is called the servant leadership, which is the last leadership style. A servant leadership is if somebody wants to do it, where they are not looking at their self-interest, but look at the interest of the team or the company. So I'm not looking at whether I will be benefited. In fact, I'm going to look at what is it that the company is going to benefit. The entire leadership style is geared towards the company's needs, the company's growth, and the team's needs and growth, and has no role for my self-interest. That is called servant leadership. Whereas a leadership, I am not acting like a boss. I'm looking at a facilitator of ensuring that the team grows, the company grows. So that is another concept of, we don't see too much examples of good servant leadership. Okay, now what are some of the things we talked about? Okay. Okay, this the rest of it you can. Uh, I'll just talk about trust and then we move on to the other thing. Now, one thing that all leaders need to build is that do your teams trust you? Are they willing to take a risk on their careers for you? So whenever you see that some leader leaves to join a new company, some 5 people join with him, it means that they trust the leader, that the leader is going to take care of my interests and therefore I'm going to join this company. Is there a trust with the team, with the boss, with the team leader? Does your boss do things that builds trust? So what are the things that ensure that there is no trust? How do you, there is no transparency in my dealings. If there is politics and politicking, if I am doing something and you don't know if it is in your interest, if I'm taking all these actions, then the team does.
Sir, we can't hear you.
So we lost you completely.
Let me give this one. अच्छा, मेरा हाथ खसखस है, आपका हाथ खसखस है।
Sir, we are not able to hear you, sir.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me now?
A little
Yes,
bit,
sir.
sir.
Just a little bit. Better now?
Sir, it's echoing, sir.
Yeah, but can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
The echo will go in a minute.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure. Thank you.
So, Okay. Yeah, so let's look at teams that exist in a company. So teams can exist outside a company, but we are looking at work teams. So let's look at some of the things of now as organizations became more and more complex, we see there is a need for more and more teamwork as we are moving more and more towards technological solutions. One thing that's become apparent is collaboration is becoming the most important skill. Can you work in a team? So rather than individual brilliance, team brilliance is what is. Okay, now all of you know about the vaccine that we got, COVID shield.
Vaccine,
Yeah. Do you know who invented that vaccine? Do you know which is that scientist? What's his name? Because it was all done by a whole team. And it's a company that got the benefit rather than an individual. If you're looking at smallpox or you're looking at polio, there was an individual who gets it. Now you don't work. Even scientists don't work like that. They work in teams. And why do they work in teams? Because then you can have all the skills that are required for that. The reason I talk about is that what people don't realize is the speed at which we got the COVID vaccine. In January, China said this is the DNA and the genetic makeup of this coronavirus thing. I don't know if you've seen that very bad photo of with of the coronavirus. They said, okay, this is what it is. 41 days later, we had the vaccine. That's all it took for the team to come up with the vaccine. And the first one that came up, which was Pfizer, had 12 prototypes ready in 41 days. COVID sheet followed, all of them followed. What was the time between that and what it was finally released was the testing part. They have to go through 3 rounds of testing. The results have to be submitted. Then they're allowed to do the next round. So that's what took time. Obviously, you can't allow people to just indiscriminately vaccinate somebody. That's what took time. But so when you have teams working together, you can have amazing results. This is one example of that where everybody got together, some really highly skilled scientists got with the production people. Okay, now, so what we are doing is moving away from individual to team behavior. And do you also have any bonus that the team gets as a whole? I know it's very popular in the manufacturing sector, so people who are in Bueller will agree that you have group incentives. But in your company too, do you have a team incentive? No. So it's all individual bonuses that are done. Now, you can't have team behavior if you don't have team rewards. Okay, so those of you can change it. I would recommend you change it because people talk about team behavior and then don't incentivize that enough. Okay, so that apart, you have various reasons why teams are popular. Now, what is the main difference between a group, even in a group in a company, and a team? Now, the main difference is that the group shares information, whereas the team has a responsibility to do a task, to show an outcome. So the teams they also are outcome based. It's not just that you have a group, you can just tell them that this is the policy of the company. Now, obviously, if the team comes together, then have you heard this word called synergy? So as a whole, the team should be more than what the individual components. So if there are 5 members of the team, each of them can produce 10. As a team, we should be able to produce 60. As a team, we should be able to do more. Why is it? Because we have complementary skills. Skills that you don't have, I have. What I don't have, you don't have. So with both of us together, we have all the skills required to do the job. And therefore, we can do much better. And in a team, the accountability is both at an individual as well as a team level. If a team, the team leader ensures that all the team members are doing as per the plan. But as a whole, the team would also be held accountable whether somebody does well or not. For example, the typical example for that is the IPL team. Now, finally, you are also interested whether the team won or lost. Team accountability. But you're all the team coach is also checking out whether the batsman is batting well, whether the bowler is bowling well, whether he's taking wickets. Individual. So in a group, in a team, there is always individual as well as a group accountability. Now, there are many types of teams. We'll talk about 4 teams. One thing that, yeah.
Can you give an example for group then?
For group. For group. So you just take all the employees in your company are a group. I'll give you an example of a group. Now, group happen without any authority or any direction from anybody. The group happens just like that. Okay, which company are you? Bueller. Now, when you have, and this is true of all of you, did all of you have an induction, some form of an induction when you join a company?
Yes.
So in induction, they're all new people. What is the first group that will form? The group will form within 1 hour of the induction. I can assure you it happens every time. What is the first group that is formed? Nobody tells his group member, you should become part of this group. Nobody tells his group member, these are the rules of the group. They figure out within an hour and this group forms very well and is a very strong group. Somebody wants to guess what group forms immediately?
Based on the-
You join, that's all you join. You do not feel very comfortable talking to everyone.
Based on their language. and-
No. Something forms even more stronger than this is, it cuts across all linguistic and all boundaries that you can use. Gossip. No. Before gossip. Gossip comes when I trust you. That should happen. In 1 hour, it's too much of difficulty to trust you. What is the first group that is formed? The smokers group. In 1 hour, the smokers figure out who are smokers, where they should smoke, where do you get the signal, all figured out. 1 hour, they all. So this, now, does somebody tell these smokers you should be a part of the thing? But they all form a group. Now, this is a very loose group. But a team is not like that. A team has a plan. You're assigned to a team. This was voluntary. You stop smoking, you're no longer part of it. Team is voluntary. Team is not voluntary. You are assigned to a team, you have a team leader, you have a job to do, the team members are decided by the company, and all of you are said you should do so. That's the main difference between the work group and no, you could have a gossip group, you could have groups based on interests like the musicians get together, sports people get together. So you have other people, linguistic groups form, all these groups also form. Nobody tells, and this one is voluntary. In a group, whether I want to be part of a group is voluntary. But in a team, I can't decide. The boss decides and you put him. Maybe you have some leeway saying I want some group or I don't want this team, I want that team. Maybe a little, but you can't decide on your team members, you can't decide on the activity that is taken by somebody else. Now, the first thing that happens is there is a problem is that there's a problem solving group that is made. Now, people are pulled out, made into a, these have different names. Some companies call these task force. That there's a task force formed to solve a problem. Once a problem is solved, it could happen in a day, it can happen in a month. These people go back to doing the regular job. So there's anybody who can solve the problem become part of the problem solving. And their only job is it could be part-time, it could be full-time, but it is usually temporary till the problem gets solved. Then you have self-managed team. A self-managed team does not have a designated leader. It's a group, it's a team. So it is not a group, it's a team, which means that they are all put together for a task. In Bueller, do you have quality circles?
You have similar, we don't call it quality circle, but we have such.
Oh, you have such. But these are worker groups who get together. And so what happens in the manufacturing sector is people who work on one process or on one machine, they get together and they say, okay, what is the problem we are facing? And they try to find a solution to that problem. Now, there is some leaders, I mean, there's some training and all given to these people, but these people are, it is not managed by the team leader. The team leader's role is to assign a meeting room and a time for these people. Within the working hours, they get together, they which problem to take, what solution to give is completely left to that quality circle. So quality circles in less or more exist in all manufacturing facilities. Of course, if the team is very cohesive, they actually come up and do a lot of good work. Now, it does not matter what the solution is. The point is that the solution is decided by the team and implemented by the team. And if it involves no money, then the team then just goes ahead and implements. If there is a budget that is required, then they come to the boss and the boss then takes it forward, does all that. But otherwise, this team can come up with their own solution. And a lot of times they form their own solution. So why? Because they know the process the best. And they say that, okay, we know it, we are going to solve it. Self-managed. Now remember, this is part of a company and by design has not been given a leader. And everybody has been told that you're all on the equal, you're all equal, all of you have to come up with that. That's a self-managed team. Or you could have cross-functional teams, also called coordination teams. So when anything that requires coordination of 3-4 departments, you have a team member. So you have production and logistics and all these people getting together. So all of them get together and say, okay, what do you require? What do I require? Solve the problems, which can be done only jointly. I can't solve a problem by myself. I require some other department's help. All the departments that are required get together on one platform so that we can take a joint decision. So lots of things that happen in a company cannot be handled by one person alone or one department alone. Then you have a cross function. Then you have virtual teams. Virtual team simply means that the leader cannot see all the team members. They are at different location. Virtual teams have been there for many days. Now with technology, it is virtually the norm, where you're managing teams all over the world. You can't see your team members. Brings a lot of challenges for the team members, for the leader. Okay, so these are the effectiveness characteristics. So we will look at some of the now. How do you ensure that team? How can a team or what does a team need to do to ensure they become successful? The first one is, do you have adequate resources? Okay, those of you, how many of you are from a project team? People who are from technology, who actually, okay. You part of a project team and regular project team, or you're the project team. Do you get as many people as you want right at the beginning?
No.
So that is always a problem. Yeah, somebody was selling online, somebody was sharing something.
Yeah, correct, sir.
Resources are a big problem, sir.
Yeah, is a problem. They say, okay, I want 8 people, start with 4, and we will give you as we go along. So, for a team to succeed, the first thing is, do you have adequate resources? A team that has adequate resources in terms of people, in terms of whatever is the technology you want, software you want, that is the most important. Second thing is that teams do well when there is a proper leadership and a structure to that team so that everybody knows what is required to be done by the team. So do you want this to be done? I should know my role. I should know that who is going to then supervise me. How is the supervision going to happen? That is, teams always work in a climate of trust. And this is the leader's responsibility to ensure trust. If there is no trust in the team members, it is the leader's problem, not the team members. If there is conflict, if there are people, have you worked in groups or teams where there were a lot of conflict, people fought with each other? Politics. Now, it works where there is poor leadership or biased leadership at the top. If the leadership is strong, you will not have this because the leader will then step in and solve this matter out. So is there a climate of trust? One of the biggest reasons why teams don't do well or some team has not done well is when you have a feeling of lack of trust, which means the team is more interested in politicking and fighting rather than doing the job. Have you worked in such teams? It is not unusual to find teams who's, okay, Monday morning we come, what do? We fight. What do we do on Friday? So where's the time to work? So if you don't have, lots of times in that thing, the teams are disbanded and a fresh team is brought in. So the last one is, how will the performance be evaluated? Who is going to get rewarded? If the reward is going to be something that is known and is fair, then the team will work very well. When the team's rewards are not fair and somebody who didn't deserve gets rewarded, you could have a problem with the team. And with the team things is a very common thing that happens. What happens is for those of you who are team leaders or even otherwise, you have a fair idea how you have performed. You have a fair idea how the team has performed. And though they push the leader, they're okay with a level of performance. But if the appraisal has been unfair and somebody who didn't or didn't deserve to be promoted or rewarded gets that, then you're going to have a lot of problems. Otherwise, if the person who is going to get promoted is a good performer, high performer, I think the team doesn't mind. They'll push you, they'll say, I wanted this, I should have got that, they'll do all that, but they will accept a fair promotion policy. So is your appraisal, performance appraisal, is it fair? It does not have to be equal. It has to be fair, which means that I knew what are the parameters and the judging process was data-based, or I had enough reasons why somebody said you score very high or don't score very high. So how is your appraisal system? Is it a fair thing? Do you all think it's a fairly good system that you have? To an extent, okay.
There's no 360-degree appraisal.
Okay, that is usually very cumbersome. Creates a lot of problems. Okay, so if the appraisal system is fair, you're going to have happy employees. One of the main areas of HR and leadership, this one. How about the now? Who should be team members? So the first one is, of course, ability that you should have in the team all the skills required to do whatever is the job that you do. Now, is it good to also have different personality, different types of personality? If you have people who are very serious, is it nice to have somebody who's a little jovial, cracks jokes, lightens the mood, makes things happier? It should be a good balance. And you should be able to, sometimes if this person goes overboard, you also control that. But it's good when you have different personalities, when you have absolutely good different personalities. So otherwise, what happens if the team has only serious people who are very work focused, could get a little boring. Yeah, you get boring also, you go there every day, everybody's talking about work. How should the roles be allocated? You allocate roles based on the abilities of the person. Do you think it's good to have diversity?
Yeah, very crucial.
Crucial?
Very important.
Yeah, so what should the diversity be?
Different race of people.
Yeah, but why should you have diversity?
It will give you a broader view. Each can give their own perspective of how exactly things will be done, and we can take ideas from them and implement it. It usually works in a group.
Okay, so this diversity debate is a big debate. So I think Captain Sir spoke about diversity, so not getting it. A lot of organizations are taking diversity very seriously. The latest initiative that became public is from, all of you know this thing called Shell. Okay, now Shell has the largest program to employ women in petrol bunks. And they have gone a step further. In Bangalore, they have opened the first petrol bunk manned completely by transgenders. See, the transgenders don't have too many job opportunities, but they could be good people. They could be trained to manage a petrol bunk. So it's an experiment that they're trying out. So you have a lot of things. Amazon has a silent floor. A silent floor is where all the people who are on that floor have hearing disability. Again, makes good businesses because it's hearing disability. People don't get too many good jobs. They stay with the company and they are committed, do a good job. And even their managers are trained in sign language, so they communicate with these people either through technology, using WhatsApp or any of the other thing, or through sign language. Worked very well. How much of knowledge do you need to just go pick up something and put it in a basket? Not too much. So you do have teams work very well. Sometimes you have teams when you're dealing with international teams, you have cultural differences. Okay, those of you who deal with international teams, so what do you think is the main difference between Indians and say Europeans or Americans? What do you see is the cultural difference?
They are very open.
Okay.
And you get to see more women in the leadership.
Okay.
Because the ratio when we compare India versus USA, you have at least here 80-20 and there you have almost 80-20.
Okay.
What I mean is a male to a female. You have almost here a female that's just 20% of the, not even 20%, in fact, much lesser. And it's opposite when we look.
Okay. Oh, okay. So I think it varies from company to company because in the US too, some of the companies don't have that ratio.
But most of the projects that I have worked in,
they have a fair amount of.
yes, they have high women leaders in it.
We've had good women leaders in India too, in the corporate sector. I only hope that there are going to be many more of them. We get in the engineering college, the Dayanand Sagar Engineering College, we have between 30 to 35% women who graduate every year. But we are not seeing that ratio in the C levels, which is CIOs, CTO, that levels, we are not seeing 30 to 35%. So somewhere in that, for various reasons, there's a droppage. So hopefully we should see more of them. A lot of culture. So what do you think will happen, for example, if your boss tells something? You may not agree with that, but would you disagree with your boss in front of the foreign client or this one? No. You know, in some of the European countries, they will. In India, you say, boss, how can I do it? You shouldn't do it in front of outsiders. You have that feeling. They don't bother. So different cultures. So, you know, you have different cultural differences. For example, if you're, my wife who's from the IT industry, she was managing a team in Germany. And there was an escalation. So she did what our Indian managers do, call the team member and say, there's an escalation, can you come and work? The next day, the HR person said, you can't do it in Germany. In Germany, it's against the law. So she said, what do you do when there is an escalation? She said, nothing. The law doesn't permit you to call somebody. And if that person is nice and, you know, the person got a comp off. It is not that the person did free or the person was paid for it. But he said, you can't do that. You can only put out an email saying, is somebody willing to do it? And you will get overtime and you will get, and if somebody volunteers, only that. Cultural difference. Now, I know all of you are thinking, how can we manage that? Yeah, their things are a little different. Employee rights. What is the size of the team? Now, teams started off in the manufacturing sector, teams were small. As technology became more and more apparent that you didn't have to have only interaction on face-to-face, team sizes have become, a lot of you manage very large teams. So you could have that. One thing is, what are the preferences of the managers? Okay, now these are, you can look at the team roles. Now, what is, when you have a group that is coming and they have complementary skills, there is some effectiveness that the group brings with itself. But what the leader does is put a process in which this skills, this capability can be harnessed. So a team is good when the team member extracts the best out of each team member. Now, by doing that, there is some loss because the people may feel a little offended, some other person may not like it. There is some loss. But overall, the effectiveness, the group effectiveness on paper, plus whatever has been the process that this person has put in, that is what makes successful team. So if you're looking at any successful team, it is because whatever is the skills of a manager. So teams, unfortunately, are very leader sensitive. So when the team leader changes, you could have a drop in productivity because it will take some time for the leader to come up and for the trust to be developed and for the team members to again feel comfortable with the whoever is the new boss. So that is what, so people use the same team. Okay, so for example, if you're looking at surgical teams, yeah, you're disturbing me, those that group at the back, you. So if you're looking at surgical teams, the doctor will be working with the same set of people because they understand each other well. So he does not want somebody else coming in, the person saying, no, you give me this, because time is of essence. So when it works like clockwork, there is hardly any communication because they know each other. The surgeon would have briefed the nurse and other people on what is the procedure and what is it that the person is trying to do. The nurse knows whatever is the role. So whatever is the instrument the doctor wants, that is given to the doctor the moment the doctor wants it. That is how it works. So it works very well when you have a group, and this is some of the. Okay. Now, one important thing is that is there a plan for the entire? Is there a purpose for the entirety? Can you set a purpose? The moment you set a purpose, you ensure that the team works towards that process. Now, there was an American president called John F. Kennedy. I don't know if you've heard of John F. Kennedy. He set a goal for NASA. So he told NASA that you have to put a man on the moon in 10 years. So it became very clear. What is it, my role? In 10 years, I have to do whatever is my department role. I need to do that. In 10 years, I have to put a man on the moon. So whenever you have a very, very clear thing that is told, that it becomes very easy for organizations to work. All of you have heard of Disney, right? Walt Disney. Now, Disney became the first company, Walt Disney became the first company who came up with a theme park, something like Wonderland. They were the first people to do it, which was Disneyland in California. And Walt Disney was a very heavy smoker. So he developed throat cancer late in life. And he knew that he wouldn't survive for too long. So he wanted to ensure that the Disneyland, the purpose was known to every employee in Disney. So what he would do is to call groups of people and talk to them about the purpose of it. So he one day called a group of housekeeping staff, the people who clean, the people, and he said, gave them a situation and said, what is it that you will do? The situation is when families come, they have two small children. The small children fought and they knocked a bottle of Coke onto the floor and made a big mess. What will you do? So they said, we will clean it. He said, not good enough. That is acceptable in other places. Not good enough in Disneyland. You need to do more. So they said, okay, we will clean and smile at them. What else can we do? So he said, I'm still not. So then they said, okay, you tell. Now I can't think of it. You tell. So he said, your job is to clean the mess. And the family is in a bad mood because the children have fought, they've created a mess, everybody's in a bad mood. To make that family smile. That is your job. So he said, what can we do? We have housekeeping stuff. I clean. What is that? He says, think of something. So if you actually go to Disneyland, I would recommend those of you going there to actually go there to see the level of customer service. These housekeeping staff or anybody else, They do small tricks to make the children smile. They do a small magic trick. There's a look behind your ear, there's a coin. So the boy will say then, look, no, I will search and he will show a coin and the kid smiles. He says your job is to create happy memories. I want each family to go with a happy memory, then they will come back. That's the purpose you have. I don't want even one family going with this unhappy memory. What happened when we went to Disneyland? We fought and we knocked a Coca-Cola. No. That memory should be erased and a fresh memory. That is the purpose. So leader sets this purpose. When you have such purpose, you're going to have extraordinary things. Goal is all very fine, okay, but can as a team, as each team member, is there a specific goal for me to do I understand what is my role? What is the goal I have to do? How is that goal going to be measured? Is it very clear? That is the next one. Now, how good is the team together? Okay, so as a team, are we able to do things well? Okay, so one thing in team efficacy is that when somebody is not doing his or her part, then that person is told to, improve his or her game. So, have you heard of this car company called Porsche? Porsche. So luxury car brand. And they had one of the best trained workforce in the entire auto industry. So these people were so skilled that when they saw an error in the part that came, they could remove and they could ensure that the error was removed and that the part fitted well and whatever was the problem was removed. They could do that. What do you think happened to the company? No. What do you think happened? Because this was the workforce training and their skill level. They got taken over by Volkswagen. And the Volkswagen people said, if there's a problem, reject that part. You will not repair it. Why? You repairing it is taking too much of time and is holding up the entire assembly line and creating a problem. So if somebody is not doing, you need to tell that person to repair it and you don't get around to repairing it. That's that person's problem, that person should repair. Your job is to do what is your job. So when rules are very clear, you will have. The second thing is that is there an identity for the team? So I don't know if in your companies teams are given names. So some companies allow teams to come up with names. So they come up with warriors, champions, and whatever, some company United, and they come up with some name. The idea is to come up with a team identity. Other ways of getting a team identity is to come up with, does your team have a t-shirt? Not the company, I'm sure has. Team t-shirts or project t-shirts?
Some teams have it.
Some teams have it. The idea is to bring an identity to the team. Okay, so one way of doing it is to have a.
Right now he's wearing one.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. So you can come up with a t-shirt. Okay, so you can come up with something like that to ensure that there is an identity given to the team. The team is given a separate identity. Then how much is the team working together? Which is how good is the bond among the team members? What happens in a team? And let me ask you, what happens if some team member is really suffering, is not able to do things? Too much of pressure on one team member. Then what do the other team members do? In your teams? Okay, share the responsibility, okay? You can do two things. You can either share the responsibility, help the other person. Yeah, motivate, support, train, do all that. Or you can ignore it. Not your problem. Your job, do it. You are not able to do it, not my problem. Yes, sir. If the team is cohesive, you also worry about your team members saying this person is not meeting his goal. So I need to also help this person out and I can help this person, so I will help. Okay, so in Belgaum, there is a commando training facility. All of you know commandos, right? They're the toughest part of the army. The army soldiers are really tough people. The cream of them are become commandos, and the cream of commandos become the special forces who guard the prime minister. You know, really the top. So what happens? The first thing that happens here is that as soon as you go, you're given a buddy. Okay, nothing is told. They say, okay, your buddy, your buddy. You know, just pair people together, their buddy. And they're given a task. The task is to run 20 kilometers. And they're given a time that you have to meet this within a time. Nothing is told to you. Okay. And these are tough people, they run. The time is tough. Some people meet it, some people don't. And then the list is put up. Who cleared it, who didn't clear it, the list is put. Then you realize that teams where the individual and the buddy both cleared it, they have shown us being cleared. If you have cleared it but your buddy failed, you're also shown as failed. So that lesson is told to you very early that it is not just about you, it is your other team members. Also look around and see if those people are facing some problem. So this is done very nicely. You're not told, the entire lesson is not very heavy. You must take care of your body. Nothing is told. You figure it out yourself. Saying that, oh, and people who don't figure out go through multiple failures and then realize, yeah, oh, I now get it. So you fail till you get this message that it is the team that is important. And if you fail, so how much do you think about it? How does the team handle failure? How does the team handle incompetence? That's important. Now, what are the men? How does the team think? What are the ways you will do that? What happens if there is a conflict? What happens if there's a conflict? If the team members fight, what happens? If it's a small fight, good. If it is work related, okay. But what if it's a personal fight? So how?
Performance.
Yeah. So how does the leader handle it? Okay. So how does the leader? How do you think the leader should handle conflict, or how does your leader handle conflict?
I mean, whenever there is such conflict, the person needs to talk to both the people and understand both the stories so that he could get the entire picture and then advise them accordingly. So that that doesn't prevail. If it is left unattended, that could actually go into a cold war, and both of them could actually start influencing the rest of the team members.
They start taking sides.
Okay.
And why do the other team members take side? Because they're entertaining. Oh, internet. Good. Do that. Nice entertainment for us, boring work. It's entertaining to see this fight. Not because they have some. Okay, now, what happens? You also don't have too much of time. So one way of handling conflict is you call those two people and say, I can notice this conflict. It's affecting the team. You either sort it out or I will sort it. When I sort it out, it is not going to be you, both of you are not going to like it. So you try to solve it out like an adult, speak to each other and stop this conflict. Not always possible, but then recently there was when before Ravi Shastri he gave up his post as a coach. There was a lot of news that there are two camps in the Indian cricket team. There's a Virat Kohli camp and that there was a Rohit Sharma camp. It was not true, but there was a lot of media coverage on that. So he told both of them that you're the senior most people. We can't have such optics. It can't go on. This message can't go. Plain and simple. So you need to together do that. So that is why a lot of things have been done by both these people to prove that we are all one. They gave press statements and did all that. The idea is that you cannot have, when there's a conflict, finally it's all one. If the conflict is work related, then you can let it go. if you're fighting to ensure more productivity, good. If the fight is because I don't like you, you might want to step. Okay, so the other one, the last one is this concept called social loafing. What happens when people willfully don't do their share of work or do minimum level of work in your team? I'm not lifting my share of weight, which means that somebody else has to do it. Or I'm doing the minimum that is required to be done, which is affecting the productivity of the entire team, which is affecting the performance of the entire team. This is called social loafing. It exists everywhere. It exists in social groups. It exists in work groups. It exists everywhere. How does a team handle social loafing? That is how it is. Now, are you going to get tough with the social loafers? Some way it should be done, whether you tell them nicely or whether it is done because when somebody counsels these people and saying, we notice that you're doing it and we're not going to be happy about that. But some amount of care has to be done by. How does a team handle social loafing? Forget the leader part. How does a team handle social loafing when somebody is famous for not doing his or her part of the job? What does a team do?
They get motivated.
Somebody is not working.
They get motivated in a negative way.
In a negative, okay?
They're isolated sometimes.
Okay, the most effective cure for social loafing is humor. So when jokes are made about that person's performance, when nicknames are given to that person gets a message very fast. Humor, if used well, is stronger and hurts more than anger. So, when the team makes fun of somebody, it is far more effective than the team showing anger at somebody's performance. Okay, so this is when the people you come up with some names for this person, then it becomes very, that person does not like it, gets the message. So, just a few things on how can you create team players, getting that. The first one for creating team players is how do you select team players? How can I select team players? When I know somebody, I can't say, okay, these are team players, that person is not. How can I? So those of you who interview people, how do you think we should select team players?
I think one of the common aspects that we look at is whether they are involved in other curricular activities, what are their hobbies, right? And say, for example, in case if they have been part of NCC or in case if they have been part of some group activity, that shows that they mingle well with the team and they have the team spirit.
Okay, yeah, definitely one. Any other
Diversity.
Huh?
Inclusion and diversity.
Yeah, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get team players. Just because I take a diversity candidate does not mean it could actually spoil the unity of the team and it could create a problem. If I have 5 people from one region and I take another person from another region to ensure diversity, maybe they'll not accept this person. You could have all that. What else can I do to yeah, you see that.
Yeah, so in interviews, right? There's one of the process where you ask them about their previous organization and the way they talk about their team reflects how much they were involved in.
And in fact, my thing is to ask a lot of questions about, okay, what was the team? What was your role? What did you contribute? Give me an example when somebody else didn't do a job and you did that job. So you start gauging how strong a person, or what happened when the team members had a fight, what did you do? So ask a lot of questions about team. Then there is, of course, training given for people. The last one is the most critical is when you reward people as a team rather than as individual. So you as a team have done something great. we'll give all of you, and then it will be given in a certain portion of the salary or some formula. It will be shared with all the team members. But if the team doesn't do well, then everybody suffers. So there's both a reward and a penalty if the team doesn't do well. So again, very common in the manufacturing. I don't know if in Bueller too, do you have a team productivity target and the production target and all that? Do you have a bonus if they meet the
Business enterprise.
okay? So the same thing happens. So in one of the companies, I come from a sales background. One of the companies, the sales was everything was individual, but there was a lot of sales support that was needed to ensure that. So they changed that from an individual to a group target. Team cohesion improved, productivity went up, conflict levels came down. A lot of good things happened when they did that. So when you actually reward good teamwork, you're going to get good team behavior. If you don't reward good team behavior, then you're going to not have a good team behavior. The last one is okay, when everything is great, but then when do you not use team? If something can be done individually, it is better not to use a team. Yeah, on the task. If the task can be done individually, then it. So a lot of tasks, while done by a team, is done individually. For example, security in your company. Now, it is one team who have to do it, but it is not a team responsibility, it is an individual responsibility. That person needs to ensure security of that person's area. So while it is a team activity, you can't say that, okay, the team is going to manage, it's going to be individually managed. You're going to check if that security person is doing his or her job. If the work creates a common purpose, then you use a team. But their work itself is of very, very different types. And the team getting together is serving no purpose. Then you might as well have different teams or different individuals doing different tasks. So why have a team then and force people to work together and attend interviews and things like that? For example, there is a pharma company called Eli Lilly. Eli Lilly is a very big, huge American company who have a R&D center in Bangalore. So these people are all PhD. The minimum qualification is the PhD. Some of them are double PhD, all from great universities. And these are people, scientists with great amount of experience. So you don't need to put them in a team and say you should collaborate. If they need to collaborate, they'll collaborate. Otherwise, they'll do things individually. Whatever is the task given to them is done by them. So you don't need a team from them. And the last thing is that if the team members are not interdependent, which means somebody's input becomes somebody else's output. If that does not happen, if there's no interdependence, then I might have a group. Why have a team at all? Why bind them in a team? So it is not always that teams are the best solution. Sometimes you don't need a team. Sometimes you work individually. You give the work of the team to an individual member. Now, as we move away from teams, we are already seeing that in a very small way in the IT sector, where we are seeing freelancers, gig workers doing some part of the work. So the gig worker is not a team member. He or she is given a task, given a time frame, given a money, and that person does that task. So you might have things, even the entire project plan broken up, given to individuals, rather than having this teamwork and interdependence and all these things. You have a number of freelancers working independently who are motivated by the money and the flexibility rather than the feeling of being part of a team. Would that be the future? I don't know. We are yet to see that take off in a very big way. But definitely you can do that. One thing it will do is it will give people access to talent all over the globe. Then you don't have to be constrained by Bangalore, office space. Then you can say, okay, fine, if somebody in Poland is very good, I'll give him the job. A Polish person will work at his or her time. They will submit the code to you. You will test it. If it is fine, you will pay that person. Otherwise, you will not pay that person. So, is that the future? We don't know. But one thing that has happened, and I'll just end with that, is that with COVID coming in, lot of teams are starting to question whether the team needs to be there at all. Companies are questioning, is the team meeting a purpose? Because we work very well when we all work independently in COVID time. Why do we need a team? Why should we all sit together and discuss with every day? Why should we have team meetings when we could do that over Zoom and did that very well? So you're already seeing companies disbanding management structures. You've heard of a company called Calvin Care who make chick shampoo. So if you've heard of it. So it's a Madras-based FMCG company who have disbanded the head office structure. Everybody works from home. Everybody is being given internet through a modem and all those things have been done. You work together and whatever is there to support the over team, you do that. You don't need to sit together and consume coffee, tea, do all that. So teams by itself will undergo a lot of changes in the next 2-3 years. The very concept of a team will change. While we say that, Google is moving in the opposite direction and talking about collaborative teams. So I think it really depends on the situation, but you're going to see a lot of changes coming in. We learned a lot of lessons in COVID. One of the big changes that we see during COVID was the questioning of the team and whether this team purpose. See, in management, education, and all the team purpose is a very big thing. We could form a great team purpose during COVID, other than that this is a job and this is how it should be done, this is a company. But we did very well. Productivity was on par. So the question therefore is, should teams be in the same form it is right now? So you might see changes in the way teams are structured, the way teams actually do. You might have a lot of individuals interact with each other and just become floating team members. So if my team just works, but when I want an IT support, I take an IT guy and the person comes for 15 days, sets the IT processes, then goes to another team. So this person is a floating member. He doesn't have a permanent team, just floats around the various teams. Job is to support all these people whenever they require it. And when that thing happens, that is built to that project, so they take him when they require. So that sort of team structure might emerge. So we're seeing a lot of new things. Let's see what happens on teams. We're seeing flexible teams, and there's now there's a concept of a circular team. A circular team is where, for example, in Walmart, the customer is the head of that team, and all teams are revolve around the customer. So they believe that if you're not directly or indirectly dealing with customers or doing something to help the customer, then you have no reason to exist. You should either be helping somebody who's helping a customer, or you should be helping a customer. No in between. So that's called a circular thing, where everything revolves around the customer and on customer experience. Nothing else matters. That's a new way of thinking. They're forming global teams based on that. So that could be another team. So a lot of interesting things. So I think that's all I have time for. So thank you very much and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, sir. Thank you, sir.